guys. Welcome to our podcast on better engineering management. And today we have with us Mr. Ankur Oberai, who has been working lately with many startups in India. Some of those startups had delivered really well, and I'm talking about likes of MakeMyTrip, PayTM, MobiKwik. Hi, Ankur. Thank you for your time. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Pradeep. Thanks for the warm welcome. Thank you.
Ankur, can you briefly tell us about your journey?
Yeah, sure, Pradeep. So thanks again, Pradeep, for calling me here to your podcast. I'll quickly introduce myself as mentioned by Pradeep himself. I'm Ankur Oberai. I have around, I've been working in the tech industry for about 16 odd years now. Started as a developer after graduating as a software computer engineer, and worked in various companies. So started as a developer, worked in the likes of started with a company called Hughes in Gurgaon, then moved into different domains and different companies, Goldman Sachs, then Oracle. Then, as Pradeep mentioned, a lot of startups which have done pretty well, the likes of MakeMyTrip, PayTM, MobiKwik, Magic Bricks. Yeah, so OLX Autos, some of the recent ones, and Fred Tiger, where I work with Pradeep very closely. So, started as a developer, coding and delivering stuff and, building features. And then gradually graduated to management roles, senior management roles, and, into the leadership category where you try to define what needs to be done and enabling people. Yeah.
So, Ankur, let me ask this first question. Like, when your kind of changed your role from a developer to a manager, right? How was that transition like, and what were the challenges that you were expecting and you actually experienced?
Yeah. So Pradeep, nice question. I think a lot of youngsters, when they are graduating from a individual contributor role to a managerial role and the aspirations they have, they do have a similar question. So I'll touch upon my personal experiences, right? First of all, according to me, I think it's very often said that being into, getting into engineering management or leadership roles into the tech industry, it's not exactly a promotion. It's a paradigm shift. It's more of a career change, according to me, which is again very commonly called out. And why that is being done is because it's not you have to think very differently. First of all, what struck me was that because you've been always writing code and you think you're very good at it, right? And you're delivering stuff from here. It's lesser and lesser of hands-on coding and transitioning more into writing emails, having lots of meetings. I think Pradeep will confirm on that, and juggling with a lot of stuff. So instead of building things yourself, it's about getting things built from the team. It's more of like, if I can take an analogy, it's like you have a cricket team and you have very good players in that, and there's a good batsman, there's a very good bowler, there's a very good wicket keeper, right? All those individual contributors who help the team do well, and there's a coach, and the coach's role is to ensure that the higher objective is met, which is to win the trophy. And that's what I think, it's one of the basic things which we need to understand. And while transitioning, I think, because once, if you are very hands on as an individual contributor, as a manager, you have to let go of that hands on thing. Why? Because, and it's not very easy, because you'll not know what each person is writing, what code exactly each person is writing very deeply. But in spite of that, you still have to know what is going on into the system, and that can cause a lot of anxiety at times, because once if you are an individual contributor, you exactly know what you've written, why you've written it. So you'll be alienating away from the code, but at the same time, you still need to know what is going on to the system, and you have to focus on that can cause a lot of what do you say, issues with a lot of people. With me also, it caused, right? Because because if you start getting into each and every code piece and you try to intervene everywhere, you will become more of a, what do you call, slowing down the team, right? It's more of person, glorified bottleneck is what will become, right? Because you cannot even.
Hey, you have to juggle a lot of responsibilities at the same
Exactly,
time.
exactly. So I think that's one of the main things. alienating and focusing on the larger objectives, right? The larger objective is to define certain things, goals for your team, making sure they are delivered as a team, right? So whatever is good for the business is what your focus should be, making sure that the team is enabled to do that. Now that also means that you are always there for the team from a technical standpoint of view as well as non-technical standpoint of view, helping them wherever they need your support and kind of removing the barrier so that they can focus on delivering with full throttle. That's the
Basically,
first.
as I understand, you are saying that the manager has to be a facilitator. He has to enable the teams and unblock them at every step, and kind of also at the same time motivate them to achieve the goals that the management is expecting them to
Absolutely,
arrive
absolutely.
at, right?
Absolutely. I think the other thing, Pradeep, is that you have to learn, always say that you have to learn two languages. One is a technical language, one is a non-tech language, right? Now, technical language is more for the people, for the teams you are managing. And the non-tech language is with the other stakeholders because there's a lot of stakeholder management which comes into the picture. And they'll be you'll be the point of contact for say the product managers, for the sales, for marketing, right? They may not reach out to each and every team member of yours because they may not know who's doing what, so they'll reach out to you. So you have to, because say the VP marketing or the or even the CEO, right? They will not be interested in say that why this database index is not working well, right? I mean, they'll be more focused on why the website has suddenly become slow and why is it impacting revenue and what you can do to fix that problem quickly. So you have to talk in non-tech terms, in terms of business, making them understand that this is the issue, this is why it is
Basically,
involved.
what I remember is there was a term used called dumb it down.
Yeah,
You should
yeah.
not use the technical terms in front of sales manager and risk it, because what would happen otherwise is they will catch up on some of those terms and then they will spread it everywhere, and then you will end up kind of explaining the term to everybody.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
basically use a simpler language with when you're dealing with teams like sales and marketing, and when you're dealing with your developer teams and QA teams, you have to use more technically strong language.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. You are right. So basically, if you are making your child, because they are smart people, the non-tech people are very, very smart as well, but they'll be more focused on the business metrics, right? So corresponding with your team and the other side with the other stakeholders is very, very important, which, again, a lot of managers do face, early managers and even mid career managers, they face these issues. I think the third part is very, very common, which is the core part of being a manager, is people interactions, right? So you have to identify the strengths and the weaknesses of people. Every human being has some strength or a weakness, in fact some multiple strengths and multiple weaknesses. So there will be, for example, always some person in your team who may be a brilliant coder or brilliant technically, but may have certain maybe attitude issues or ego issues, right? So deal with them separately because that person can be a great support in getting things out, but the attitude or the ego has to be handled well. The second kind of people obviously can be a quiet brilliant coder. Now that person may be doing very well, but that person just doesn't speak in meetings or doesn't share their insights. They are pretty shy,
Not very vocal, basically.
not very vocal, right? Bringing them out in terms of making them comfortable that their views will be heard
Basically,
and
we have to identify strengths of each and every member in the team.
right.
And how would you kind of do that? I mean, what did you do a lot of one-to-ones with the team, or you were kind of trying to judge their
Yes.
strengths based on their deliveries?
So, Pradeep, I think, most important is to have interactions with your team. Your team is working with you to deliver something, right? You have to get to that level with your team where they are comfortable sharing their issues with you. They should be able to reach out to you any point of time. You may not be responding immediately, maybe on Slack or phone, but they should be able to reach out to you, and in a reasonable amount of time you should reach out to them. Now the first
Just
thing
one question. When you say, I mean, a manager should be helping the team in every way, right? There should be a lot of interaction. Are you also saying that apart from the issues that, let's say, a team member faces at office, should we also extend it to other issues like, let's say, he's facing some issues with commute or his systems? Should a manager also be aware of those things?
Absolutely. So I think one-on-ones are extremely important, Pradeep. I think we should always have one-on-one meetings and, again, have that kind of atmosphere where they tend to open up. Now it is very, very possible and it is very common that it's not a technical issue they are facing. It can be a personal issue as well. It can be a, personal, can be commute, it can be something bothering them at home or whatever it is right now. Even if it is, or if suddenly the person has started coming late right now, if the person is coming late, instead of harping on the fact that you have to be on time and this and that, right, try to understand why is that person coming late, what we can do to help that person. Is it a temporary thing? Is it a, for some time the situation at his place is not that great, or something has happened because of which that person has started getting late or get going back early, right? You are very right, Pradeep. So it is, see, we say that personal and professional life are different, but according to me, even if something is happening at your personal front, it can be long hours of commute as well, right? It does hamper your professional output as well. So, and hearing them out and trying to get out, if the person is having issues, trying to get that issue out of his, because if that third person starts opening up, they will start telling you their problems. And
Basically,
you
we
can.
should have some empathy for each and every team member, and that should
Absolutely.
show at office only a kind of honest empathy where we don't just question them, but we also try to understand, like, if they are undergoing any issues, what is the, what are the core reasons behind those issues, and if we can, solve it
Absolutely,
via,
absolutely.
anyway,
And
right?
and Pradeep, I think one thing which I want to touch is that, so whenever, I've been doing hiring, right, like a lot of hiring in different companies for different domains, for different teams. Now, the technical stuff or the technical learnings or the technical skills do matter, definitely, but I also look and I also weigh a lot on the attitude of that person, which is very important because, as it's very, very commonly said by great leaders that, technical skills are something which can be taught, but if the attitude is screwed up, it's very difficult to change it. If the attitude is
Completely
good,
agree.
we can do wonders together, right? An average person can do very well in a team. A great tech person with a pathetic attitude will struggle and make the team struggle as well.
Can you share some pointers, like when you are interviewing somebody, right? How can you kind of sense the attitude of that person, whether he's a good fit for your company? Because technical questions you can easily ask, right? And the HR person will also ask some questions to kind of judge the fitment of the company, of the individual with regards to the culture of your company. But there are some deeper attitude, you know, how should I say, mental attitude towards work and towards relationships, right, which are difficult to gauge easily.
Yeah.
So during interview, what kind of questions can we ask, like, which can, bring those kind of personalities out and help us make better decisions, while hiring the candidates?
See, first of all, which I tend to ask is that, I do also touch upon some kind of a stress testing during interviews, because if you are mild in stress, it's good, right? You will be able to manage things. Now, what I normally do is I give them a scenario and I say that, you are working. I'll give you a scenario which I've asked often, and it's nothing right or wrong in this answer, but it's a question I'll just pose here. So what I one of the questions which I do ask, is that, suppose you're working on a project, right, and there's another person who's working on a different module which you have not worked on. It's not that you don't have knowledge of of that feature, but it's a big feature and you've not worked on that. Somebody else is working on that due to some, and it's a critical module that person is working on, and it's got a delivery date attached to it. It's something like, maybe like, IPL, tied to IPL, because IPL, if it starts and that feature is not rolled out, then it's not of much use, right? And that person who's working on that particular feature has suddenly gone missing. Gone missing means, it's possible that he's informed his manager,
Some
uh,
kind of emergency, basically,
some kind of emergency, right? Some kind of a personal emergency. Now,
right?
he's informed his manager, but he didn't have time at all to do anything, any KT, nothing. And very, very limited documentation is there, because that person was kind of supposed to, and he was mentally prepared to work on it, and he was working on it, right? Two people were there. And but the main person out of those couple of people who were working on that feature had to take leave. Now the phone is not available. He's gone to his hometown where the phone is not working and the internet is patchy, very, very patchy. Now your manager has come to you asking for help. That hey, can you help us with this problem?
Okay.
And this is
It's a
something which.
very difficult question to answer actually.
And what will you do? Can you help us with this? Because the stakes are high. At
Hmm.
the end, at the back of your mind, you have things running. You should not say no because it's a high priority thing. If you do well, because the stakes are high, and if you're able to deliver it, your reputation grows. So, but it's a difficult technical thing. It's a lot of things
Yeah,
which.
I think these are the kind of questions where you will have to give the answer which you actually believe in because you cannot just make up something.
Yeah, yeah, correct, correct, correct.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So there, I think people start then they answer a lot of things. Obviously, there is no right or wrong there, but it
correct.
gives me a good way of judging the psychology of that person
Okay,
apart from the technical questions
interesting.
which are normally asked. Yeah, so that's one
Okay,
one example which I do normally ask. Yeah.
very interesting. I think let's move to the next question. So, Ankur, you have worked with companies like MakeMyTrip, PayTM, MobiKwik. All of them have delivered really good results, as a startup. And at the same time, you have also worked with companies like Goldman Sachs and Oracle, right? My question is, what are the main cultural differences that you have observed between, established companies and considerably companies which are new or which are small or which are, aggressive like startups like PayTM?
So Pradeep, I think the major difference is in terms of uh, discipline of working, right? Or orderliness, right? So typically bigger companies will have a lot of things organized very well. And with that, there is another issue, or some people like it, some don't like it. A lot of bureaucracy comes in. A lot of processes are there. Especially in a company like into finance, big giant like bank like Goldman Sachs or even Oracle, right? Now they will have a lot of layers where you will have to kind of follow certain processes, and typically the release cycles are large. They are not that they'll not be releasing stuff maybe every week or something like that. They have well defined processes. They'll make big releases which will have huge impact, but it'll go through a series of processes, and it'll have its own. Everything will be well defined. There will be gray areas, but the gray areas will be lesser. In a startup, it's always gray. A lot of things may surprise you suddenly. The product may suddenly say that this is what you want to do, and suddenly you started working on something. There is a possibility that there are sudden changes made to the requirements, and you have to adapt to that. You have to have that mentality to adapt to things very, very
There's a
quickly.
lot of reprioritization that happens in startups, you are saying,
Absolutely.
right? Compared to MNCs which have larger roadmaps and bigger plans.
Exactly. The
Okay.
bureaucracy level is very, very lesser in startups, and some people like it, some people don't like it. So, according to me, the biggest difference is that in a big company or a multinational, it's not that you will not learn, you will learn, and probably you will get, expertise of your domain you're working on. In a startup, you may get experience of the domains you're not working on as well. For example, there might be a lot more interaction with your product managers, so you'll be wearing that hat as well at times. There will be a lot of interactions with maybe different teams, maybe with sales as well, that this is how it should be done, and you'll get a lot of input. So there'll be a more, I think, according to me, a holistic improvement in your personality in general in a startup as compared to a MNC. Having said that, there's learning in both. There is a steeper learning curve in a startup. There will not be too many people helping you out. You'll have to swim through the waters on your own initially, and less of documentation, less of everything. There are tools now to help in that. All those AI tools which are there. But more or less, it's like the learning curve will be steeper, but you'll end up learning quickly as compared to.
Basically, startups have to achieve more in a shorter time if they want to survive.
Exactly, absolutely.
And if you're working there, you will have to kind of increase your pace.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And one more question I have, related to the same question is like, regarding technologies and research, right? What are the differences that you have observed in the attitude of, let's say startups or like, like to the likes of Paytm and MakeMyTrip compared to companies like Oracle and Goldman Sachs? How much do they focus on kind of research and technologies and new technologies? You mean like AI and all those kind of technologies?
Yeah, Pradeep. regarding the R&D initiatives in both of them. So I think startup people, and that's actually true as well, that there's cutting edge technologies which are being used, which is true. But I think that MNCs, they have bigger teams, right? They have a lot of more people than startups. So they do have core R&D departments most of the times who are working on. So they have a lot more people who are working on R&D stuff, figuring out what to do. But I think the difference is that because of lower layers of bureaucracy in a startup, and the newer tech stacks generally, startups which they have, right? So they don't have a lot of legacy, bounded to them as compared to maybe larger companies, because they are very recently built. Um, Even though the R&D teams in bigger companies are bigger, and they might be developing something for the long term, but the adaptability or the adoption of those R&D initiatives is, I think, quicker in startups. The scope of experimentation is, I think, you get more freedom to do that in a startup. Again, because if it's a legacy code, you have to worry about a lot of things. If it's a newer tech stack you are working on, there's lesser things to break. There's lesser, risk is there in both, but I think the adoption is quicker in a startup. But the R&D expenditure and all is much more in an MNC.
So I guess what is happening these days is big companies are spending a lot of time doing the R&D, but once the products on tools, open source tools and all are successful, startups are adopting them more quickly.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Startups are smarter that way.
Yes, they're smarter. They are getting ready-made food. Yes, you're right. So I think that is there, and yeah. So I think that is definitely a big point between both
Okay.
of them.
And another interesting thing is like most of the startups are not able to make it and kind of succeed in their goals, right? But if you take some of the startups in which you have worked, right, like MakeMyTrip and PayTM and even they have done pretty good that way. What do you think differentiates a good startup or rather a successful startup from other startups? Are there any characters or qualities that you have observed in these startups which might be missing in some other startups and they can learn from these companies?
Yeah. So, Pradeep, I think first is that, if you are a startup, it's always said that, build fast and break fast. That's a line, right? Break things, it's things like that, right? Build fast. But, you should not try to build that fast that your product gets broken, right? I mean, you should. So, I think the companies I worked in, which have done well, which have come up with IPOs very, very recently, is the differentiating factor is that they were very focused on the products they were taking out to the market. So don't spread yourself too thin. Focus on certain categories which you are good at, which you feel that you can get to a market leadership position, and try to capitalize on that. It's good to deliver MVPs. It's good to iterate on things. It's very good. Don't wait for the whole product to come out and have small iterations getting out. But
Basically, you're
don't.
saying that, like we hear the term MVP a lot. Most, important portions of your product, you should focus on them more, which are going to deliver the maximum value
Absolutely.
instead of trying to do everything because your resources are limited, your time is limited, your money is limited.
Absolutely, but MVP also should be a quality MVP. Whatever you are taking out to the market, even if it has lesser features, those features should not be having very simple, trivial issues.
Lesser features, but they should also be very good quality features.
Yes, absolutely. So, see,
Okay.
it's all about market play right now. So, if a startup initially, if they are delivering things which are going to the market, but they start breaking, the features start breaking, then you've already started getting a bad name. And, it's all about
Right.
reputation. The stock market also plays a lot on the reputation, right? The bad news comes and, it just goes down. So, it's about building your reputation gradually and gradually, and that's how you deliver stuff. Focus on one area, deliver it, then focus on the next area, get that thing delivered. So having very, very focused energies in the teams as well, is what I noticed in these companies. They were, because the energy was focused for each and every team what they were working on.
Basically, what I understand is you're saying that startups have to focus their energy, kind of reduce wastage if they
Absolutely.
really want to achieve something. Otherwise, they can be all over the place and then the quality of deliveries will not be that great, and the value that customer is expecting may not be as much.
Absolutely. So, if even if you're delivering lesser features, deliver them with quality is what I've seen there. Yeah.
And the side aspect, of the startups is, there's a lot of discussion around it, like the work-life balance, right? Sometimes it becomes difficult to kind of balance work and life because startups can be pretty demanding.
Yeah.
And not only startups, even, big companies can also be at times very demanding. But talking specifically about startups, how have you managed your balance, and what advice would you like to give to others who are working in these high energy startups where, a lot is expected out of everybody?
So, Pradeep, again, the hot topic, right? Work-life balance these days.
Yeah.
So I think it's a lot depends on the individual, Pradeep. Uh, According to me, and it also depends a lot on the management as well. Startups demand more work, but it's up to you and the management how you manage that work, right? According to me, the focus should always be on the outcomes rather than the hours getting spent in in the workspace or at home in your laptop. It should be focused on the outcomes, and those outcomes should be decided before you're starting working on something. For example, if you are planning a sprint, the sprint outcomes in fact should be they should be decided. Most companies have a 3 month OKR kind of a thing. Some companies have a 1 month OKR where we decide on the goals and key results we want to focus on. That helps in deciding the outcomes we want to achieve. Now, those outcomes can be a bit steep or aggressive in a startup, and maybe a little lean in a bigger MNC. You have more time. See, the outcomes will be there, but the time duration will be maybe a bit lesser in a startup. And but then startups, if they demand more work, I think most of the startups give you more flexibility as well in terms of from where do you want to work. For example, right, a lot of startups give you, they don't ask you to come to office, and they give that flexibility also to help you with a lot of things. So
There is a brighter side also.
yeah, so I mean, but at the end, I think if as an individual contributor or as an employee of the company, you should be very, very well aligned with the management. And the management has a very important role to play to inculcate this thing that we are focused on the outcomes of your work, and this is what you want to achieve. If you are if while deciding on a goal or an objective, if you feel that it is too steep, it is too aggressive, then please challenge it. According to me, employees should be always asking whys. Why is it required to be done in this much time? If you feel that it's unreasonable, please do challenge it. Ask the management a lot of whys. And if you feel that it cannot be achieved, get the timeline extended. And I think because everything has a bad side to it, right? So counter to that is that if you work so much, number one, there will be a burnout gradually over a period of time. Number two, the delivery of the product will never be as great as what it was earlier, right? So it's like you'll do very well for some time, and then your performance will reduce. You'll bugs
It
will
will be
keep
difficult to sustain for a long period of
for a
time.
long period of time. Exactly. So I think both of them have their own side, but it's up to the individual to get in sync with the management and portray, their side to the managers and to their leaders in a very, very transparent way.
So I guess it brings us back to the same point. That how can you save energy by being more focused? If there is a good relationship between managers and the developer, they can kind of plan things in such a way that even if they are working in like this number of hours, they deliver more than kind of, you know, putting more and more hours and getting burned out, and then eventually delivering lesser and kind of, being
Absolutely.
stressed about health and, your
Absolutely.
well-being.
Yes, yes. Because that's why I think a lot of, a very important role managers do have to play here. A lot of time should be spent on planning of those outcomes. What are we planning to deliver this month or this quarter? And a lot of deliberation should be spent on that, because that's where everything gets drilled down from that. The
Mm-hmm.
time taken, time, you are expecting this thing to be delivered in, is the
Right.
team comfortable doing it, right? So more often than not, the managers, if they've been interacting well with the team, they have an idea of that. But if there is some doubt, they should be interacting with the team key players as well. Yeah.
A related question to that, Ankur, is like, how much impact do you think mid-level managers like engineering managers and directors, right, have on the overall outcome of a company? particularly startups, because in big companies there are too many people, right? So it's difficult to kind of correlate the impact one person has, right? But in a startup like company, let's say where there are maybe the total strength itself, let's say 50 to between 50 and 100, how much impact do you think a good manager or a good director can bring in the overall outcome of the company?
A huge impact, Pradeep. I think a huge impact because see, as I said that, at one end is the technical part of things, and the other part is the non-technical part, right? Now, mid-level managers are actually the
Hmm.
interfaces between the two. If the developers continue to do their job well, and it's not in line with what is expected from the other stakeholders of the company, the top management, right? It's actually, again, of not
Not
kind.
very useful.
Secondly, a lot of times, very important part or term called tech debt, for example, gets neglected at times, right? Making the other, again, the non-tech stakeholders realize the importance of tech debt and allocating, just an example, getting time allocated in your daily, in your sprints or in your quarter for removing that tech debt, right? The top management may not be very, very, cooperative or supportive in that. They'll want to ship out features, but you as a manager should be accountable and responsible for removing that tech debt gradually. So again, a very important role. It's like you are the CEO of the teams or the departments you are managing, right? So again, it's your responsibility starts from making sure that the people are happy and they are delivering things to the maximum extent they can deliver from a efficiency point of view, and at the same time making sure that the other side, the other stakeholders, are getting what they want to a reasonable extent. Exactly, again, also.
Right. So you're saying that the mid-level managers can actually be very important point of communication for both the higher management who would like to know what is happening at the ground level and what can be improved, and at the same time, team members, the teams, developers, and other stakeholders can also be apprised of what the higher management expects from
Absolutely,
them,
it's
and in a
like
way they can do the role where they are kind of helping both of them.
absolutely, and it's like, and it's like an interface, right? So a very important interface. If the manager, so that's why hiring a bad manager costs a lot in the
Right.
long term. Because the top management will not be interacting with the best developers every day of your team. They'll be interacting a lot more with your managers, and the managers will be representing the teams. So a very, very important part of, a company, of a mid-sized startup, very important.
Coming back to Ankur again, that nowadays there is a lot of boom about AI and kind of things like ChatGPT and DeepSeek.
Pradeep.
How do you see those kind of technologies kind of you know coming to the fore? What do you think? Are startups adopting them already, or there's too much of kind of still there is too much noise, and how it is still there is still some time to see before this kind of technology starts making real.
So, Pradeep, I think all these technologies with the recent boom, right, from China especially, right, DeepSeek, Kimi, and Quelm. So, see, AI is there to stay now. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere, and we have to accept that. From what I've seen very recently is that the adoption of AI related technologies is started, and it's not that it'll come, and it's already there. A lot of things are being built on AI as core products over the LLM models, and the different applications which we have. So according to me, it's already there. It will just penetrate more and more, and it will lead to a lot of innovation which will come up, which was very difficult to kind of think about earlier, because getting those models built, and it required its own sweet time and a lot of expertise which everyone didn't have. With these days, with these technologies coming in, it has the base. It's like you are standing on a pedestal which is higher than what it was earlier. You're not standing at base, so it's given you that leverage, and I think they'll definitely penetrate more and more. A lot of innovation will start coming up, which was not there possible earlier. But having said that, I
Basically, these technologies will increase the pace of whatever was happening already, and we kind
absolutely,
of also provide a lot of add-on services on top of it.
Absolutely. So Pradeep, again, just to add that, I there's a lot of debate going on, like Copilot and ChatGPT and different
Right.
applications is coming up that software engineers will get replaced. I don't believe in that. I think a lot of routine work, for example, a lot of boilerplate code or a lot of automations, which were being done by software developers earlier, that will get replaced. But kind of the same software developers will be focusing probably on more challenging stuff, on architectural issues, on design issues, rather than writing more of boilerplate code, which these tools will get more and more involved in. But I don't think it's a thing of that, suddenly the software engineers will get replaced. That's
What I understand is a lot of repetitive things which developers used to do and all those boilerplate things, they will get those ready-made, but that doesn't mean that the challenges or opportunities will stop. Using these, using this as base, now they can kind of attack newer problems and
exactly,
solve even
exactly.
bigger kind of problems, right?
So the impact which will get generated with the same number of people will be much more. That will be, so the impact which will eventually get created with, say, the same number of people or even with lesser number of people will be much more than what it's right now. So that, because the innovation will be, you're getting a lot of things ready made, what you can do over and top of that. So that's something which these same software engineers will start focusing on.
So, so let's say you have to give some advice to new people who want to join these kind of startups or companies which are very high growth and they want to kind of also break through their roles. Basically, they want to come into management instead of just pure development, something like engineering management or as a when you mentioned directors and all those things. What are some of the things that they should keep at top of their mind that if they want to really deliver, you know, and kind of whenever they are trying to join these kinds of companies, right? What are some of those things which should be on top of their minds, both for being selected and then again to deliver?
So first of all, I think Pradeep, again, transitioning from an individual contributor to a engineering manager kind of a role or into management, again, it's more of a career change. And first of all, first and foremost thing according to me is that you should be ready or you should like interacting with people. It's more about the personality also of the individual, right? So you
You should
should
like people,
you should like people. You should like people. Very rightly put. You should like people. The people interaction. You should be liking interacting with a lot of people. If you are wanting to, you get very very interested and excited about solving issues or individual problems and you get a kick out of it, and you don't want to get involved in other people's lives in general, then I think the individual contributor is the right track for you, and there's no dearth of opportunities there as well. It's not that individual contributors, they don't do well, they cannot do well and managers do well, or the other way around. That's nothing like that. If you are good in whatever you are doing, you will do well at the end.
basically you have to know your strengths and go in that direction.
Right. So I'll again, the same analogy of a team, of a football team, of a you know, cricket team, right? Now it's a teamwork now. If you are that sort of a personality where you feel that you should be scoring the maximum number of goals and you want to win the man of the match, right? That gives you the highest kick, and that's, I think. And the other personality is that you want the team to win the World Cup,
Right.
for example, instead of, no matter if whether you are scoring, say, goals or you are scoring a double century or not, but you
It's like
want.
this analogy where there is a coach who is not playing himself, but he's very
Exactly.
happy to see the team win.
Exactly. Because at the end, see, managers, the individual contributors, they'll get all the praises. The managers have to hear a lot from the top management.
Right.
If the team is doing well, still the individual contributors do get highlighted. If the team does not do well, or the department or the domain or the teams you're managing doesn't do well, the manager gets to hear most of the.
I think the empathy should be both sided, right? The developers and the teams should also think about the managers a lot because
Absolutely.
they are also kind of taking a lot of pains and cushioning them from all the side effects.
Yeah, yeah.
If a manager is thinking about survival of a company and all those things, there are a lot of uh, benefits which will go both ways, right? To the higher management as well as to the teams.
Absolutely. So again, according to me, if you are getting a kick, if you are not wanting to interact with people, then because management, it should be very, very clear. You'll be writing minimal code and you'll be interacting with people most of the times. It can be your team, it can be other teams, it can be totally a different set of stakeholders.
Hmm.
So, and you'll be solving people problems. Now, people
Right.
problems are a different game altogether as compared to code problems, right? Code, it's like zero or one, right? If it runs, it runs, right? But if people are not like that. It's not like, someone is not doing well, you just change something and suddenly that person's problems get solved. It's not like that. It's not, it's a lot of gray area is there, you need to do a lot of, so if you like that kind of stuff, but at the end, according to me, the impact you will get to deliver as a manager tends to be more because there are more people working with you towards a common goal. So the bigger picture, if that excites you more, go in for management. You want to interact with people, you like enjoying that, do that. If you are focused, if you get a kick out of personal milestones more and challenging technical issues more, much more than solving other things, then stay into the individual part.
And so coming back to you, Ankur, what kind of things are you interested in, and what are your plans? Shed some light on that also. Like, what are you, thinking? Where are you heading nowadays?
Sure, sure. So Pradeep, right now I think my last company where I was working was in Fred Tiger as director of technology and managing some core teams there. Uh, and so Fred Tiger is into B2B logistics and been working again in leadership roles for quite some years now in different companies as we just discussed. Right now I thought it's the right time for me to kind of start building something which of my own. So I'm right now focused on that, and I've tried to, and with this AI boom which has come up, right? We just talked about it. It gives you the opportunity to build on a lot of things which have a base already there. So trying to get into that and trying to experiment with a lot of AI tools and technologies and trying to build my own kind of a startup where which will be focused on delivering very very unique and interesting products is what I've been focusing on right now.
So we can say your entrepreneurial journey has started, and you're up for all the challenges now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's again very steep. So entrepreneurial is again very, very different as compared to being in management. But it's fun. It's actually it's a good ride. You tend to learn a lot of non-tech stuff also about life in general. Being an entrepreneur, I think, and I'm willing to learn that and started to learn some of that already. Yeah.
Sure. Ankur, thanks again for joining. Thanks for giving your time. I know you're very busy and you're kind of doing a lot of stuff, but thanks for your time. And I would like to wish you all the best for your journey. And I hope to see some great startups coming out and kind of, succeeding. Thanks, Ankur, again for joining us here. Any closing words that you would like to say?
Thanks, Pradeep. I think it was wonderful interacting with you. First of
Yep.
all, work
Same here.
closely with you in Fred Tiger and really good interacting with you. A very kind of informal discussion and interesting discussion we had on
Sure, Ankur.
a lot of core topics. So really good, Pradeep, and
Same
excited.
here, Ankur. I think we have all learned a lot of things, a lot of good pointers we got, like how can we be better managers, what kind of things we can, learn in a startup, what kind of mindset we should have if we want to be selected in certain interviews. All these things will help our audience, and kind of that's the idea behind this podcast, where we can kind of learn from people who have, underwent the journey, right? So thanks for your time again, Ankur, and we will stay in touch. I'll also go through the comments. If you have some questions, I'll get back to you. Maybe we'll have one more session. And of course, once your company is there and we see the products out,
Yeah,
we'll connect again for sure.
sure, sure, Pradeep. Right. Nice interacting with you. Okay.
Sure, Ankur.
Stay in touch.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Have a nice day.
Bye. Have a great